Okay, this video is going out to HighImpactVlogs. It sure is. I've decided to say something to him in a video just at him. Okay? You know, it isn't that Brian over here at HighImpactVlogs don't tell you the truth, but he's like so many of them that I see online. They'll tell you the truth, but they'll never talk about the root cause. Nope. They'll show you lots of symptoms, lots of what's going on in the world that we can all see with our own eyes. And they'll tell you it over and over and over and over again. Okay? I like to call Brian over here at HighImpactVlogs the next Alex Jones. Yep, I sure do. You see the shirt he's pushing in your face? You watch all the advertisements he gives you of his own stuff to sell his own stuff. You watch the survival food he's showing you in his store as well. Yep, the next Alex Jones. CIA, employee of the establishment, employee of Silicon Valley, employee of the very people who are responsible for everything that's going on in today's society, from the wars to the invisible bug, every last bit of evil going on. You know, and when it comes to NWO, Agenda 21, which you don't hear Brian talk about that, do you? No. Okay? And what's really going on, you ain't going to hear that from Brian. All you're going to hear from Brian is the symptoms over and over and over again. Of course, along with all of his advertising of his products, okay? So that he can collect some of the Rothschild dynasty's tool money that keeps us all enslaved. So, you know, Brian has to have the root of all evil. The Rothschild dynasty's tool, I've even heard Brian say, well, if I don't start getting some donations, guys, I don't know how much longer I can do these videos. I've literally heard him say this, okay? Makes me sick. I don't know how much longer I can tell you what you see in your face, guys, without getting some of the Rothschild dynasty's money in my pocket. That's really what he's saying. Because, see, I like being a slave to the system as long as I'm making lots of it. I really don't care about what's going on in the world. I put my act on and pretend I do. But what I really care about is my money. You know, because after all, it takes money for me to tell you anything that's truthful. I couldn't stand up against the elite and fight back without you paying me, which is the equivalent of four-armed thugs coming through his back door, and he's not going to protect him and his wife and his family unless they give him some money first. That's really what he's saying. He's just not wording it that way, but that's really what he's saying. You know, and he's got this video up here in Loveland, Colorado. At one time in my life, I actually lived in Loveland, Colorado. I know the area, believe me. When I was a young adult, I lived in Loveland, Colorado. I sure did. They used to have a Hewlett-Packard. I don't know if it's there anymore in Loveland, Colorado. And we lived right across the road from it because my mother worked there. Yep, so I know all about that. But I'm going to tell you something here. What Brian said in this video, he did talk a lot of truth. He told you the truth. This guy right here was railroaded, okay, by these thug cops, okay, the arm of the NWO. That's what cops are. That's what law enforcement is. That's why the justice system is as corrupt as it is. Because it's always been the arm of the elite. They're the thugs that carries out the elite's orders of tyranny. Okay, but Brian here isn't no help at all. Because Brian's going to show you all the symptoms, and he's never going to talk about the root cause. He's not going to address the root cause. When's the last time you heard Brian talk about what can we do to stop these people? How can we bring down the elite? Oh, that's right, Brian ain't going to talk about that. You don't hear anybody talk about solutions, do we? No. We're just going to keep showing you the symptoms like you're not seeing them going on in your own face over and over and over. You know, some of the other words Brian says, I notice he always avoids it. He told you in this video that power absolutely corrupts. Absolutely corrupts. Well, he's correct about that, but anytime Brian uses them words, it's only power. He left two things out. I'm going to give you the whole list that Brian won't give you, okay? Here are the things that absolutely corrupt 100% across the board. Ego. That's right, ego. Money. That's right, the tool, money. And, of course, power. There's your list. Ego, money, and power are these three things that absolutely corrupt the human mind. Why do you think Brian only talks about power when he brings this up? Because he wouldn't dare say the other two, because they fit right along with him, don't they? They sure do. The greed. For the Rothschild dynasty's tool. For the very thing that's keeping us enslaved. For the very thing that's allowed what's going on in today's society to happen. How do you think all governments in a worldwide pandemic was able to work together to do this worldwide? Because people have sold out to the tool. That's why. Now they're going to bring you into a cashless society, which is going on right now in your face. There is no shortage of change. They're just not meant it no more. That's right, because they plan on moving you into a cashless society. Now, I did do a live stream or a video where I told people what we have to do is, if we're going to fight back and beat these people, we have to start with the tool. We literally do. We, the people, have to get together and we have to create our very own monetary system that's controlled solely by us, the people. And walk away from the Rothschild dynasty and the Rockefeller dynasties and the J.P. Morgans and walk away from their tool. Because it's that very thing right there that has allowed all this to happen. So many people have sold out everybody for their own selfishness, for their own greed. And Brian over here at HighImpactVlogs, he ain't no different than that. He couldn't come up here and tell you root causes. He couldn't talk about solutions. He couldn't come up with ideas of what can we do and can we get together somewhere and do it not on a phone and not on a computer so that it cannot be infiltrated. So that you could put people together in contact with each other in person in every state. And we need this to happen across the globe. And to create our very own monetary system, and once we get enough people, you're also going to have arms. And you're also going to have to be ready to protect it. Because you know, once you create your own monetary system and we start working together, and we stop using theirs, they're going to come gunning for us. They're going to use their tool to hire a bunch of thugs like these cops to come gunning for us. Because that is the starting point if you're ever going to stop what's going on. But see, nobody ever wants to talk about a solution, a way of stopping. But you don't call Brian, you don't want him stopped. That'd take his fancy living away from him. That's right. He couldn't enjoy himself making videos and pushing his merchandise in your face from his online store and shoving it in your face, Alex. Yeah, I have no respect for Alex Jones. Not that he hasn't told truth, but he's also told so many lies that isn't funny. He is definitely involved with Hollywood and CIA. There's no doubt about it. Okay? And Brian here, well, he's no better than that. He might as well be down there living in Silicon Valley working with the rest of the scoundrels who's responsible for the destruction of our world. Because Brian's no better than that. He may have a lot of subs, but why do you think he has a lot of subs? Well, because YouTube hasn't, he's saying how YouTube's going to take him down, Well, YouTube, Google, once they got ownership, once Google took up ownership of YouTube, they announced they were turning YouTube into a television set, and that's exactly what they've done. They placed agents from the military to CIA to the mainstream media and Hollywood. They have placed agents all over the internet, watching and monitoring everything we do, okay? All for the tool, for the money again. That's right. Just like Brian. He's not going to give you nothing but what you already could find out yourself. He's never going to talk about what we could do to stop them. He's not going to talk about overturning them and taking our power back and freeing us of this. No, he couldn't do that. That would be like quitting his job. See, he's enslaved to the Rothschild's tool. That's what Brian is. He's enslaved to that tool. I understand we all have to make a living. I understand we all have bills. But I also understand you have to be willing to put that aside. You have to be willing where the root cause of all of the evil is, and it is in the money. Because that's the only way they could have gotten this worldwide the way they did. Is through the cremation of care, the literal loss of care, okay? The cremation of care. So that everybody would become self-centered and selfish, which is the world we live in now. Where we don't care really about anybody, but we pretend we do. We don't care really about anybody but our immediate family. And our tool. Our Rothschild tool, money. Even though it's the Rothschild dynasty that's way at the top of the pyramid that's pulling these strings. And financing all this, like with Bill Gates. You hear him talk about Bill Gates, he'll talk about Tony Fauci, or Deborah Birx, right? But we couldn't be honest with the rest now, could we? We couldn't stop pushing our merchandise in their face, right, Brian? What good is that survival food going to do somebody who probably won't be alive to eat it, Brian? Oh, I know what it'll do. It'll line your pockets. I got nothing against you making a living online. If you want to up a store online and you want to sell all your merchandise and you want to advertise your merchandise, but you shouldn't do it on the backs of truth. When you do it on the back of truth, of what's really going on in this world, so you're complicit with it happening, because if it ever got stopped, your income would go out the door, right, Brian? So therefore, no, you don't want this stuff stopped. You couldn't push your merchandise in their face while you're showing them the symptoms, right, Brian? Is that what it comes down to, Brian? Yeah, of course that's what it comes down to. For you and many other sellouts who've sold out the people for your own greed. Okay, I just had to say that because it's the fact. It's the truth. It's in your face. Whether you don't like me for saying it or not, I just don't really care. I really don't. Because, see, I have real care. I care about everybody, and I want this stuff stopped. And it will never, ever, ever be stopped if we don't do something. And you can't follow somebody like Brian and expect to ever do anything. Because Brian ain't about to do anything because he wouldn't want to lose what's keeping him enslaved. And don't think Brian cares about you or me or any of us. No, he don't. What that man cares about is his ego and his greed for the tool from the Rothschild dynasty money. Because it is the Rothschild dynasty that owns the Federal Reserve in America. And once we go cashless, why, he don't care then, because see, he'll still be getting credits on his card or his chip. As long as she has this wonderful lifestyle and can live in his nice home, and that's right, and drive his nice vehicles and always have some tool to buy himself something, that's all that matters to him. You know, pretty soon he could be living in a mansion. And he can rise above somebody else through materialistic items, because that's what controls Brian's life. See, what really needs to happen is the monetary system needs to be taken over by the people. We need to create our own. Let them go cashless. We create our own, and we start trading with it. And you get one town at a time, from small town to small town to small town to a city at a time, to accept that monetary gain and start using it to trade with. And make sure everybody is going to be paid an equal amount regardless of what their job is. And a good amount too, so they can live comfortably. Everybody, don't matter what job you have. We're not going to put one job over another, because it takes us, the people of the world, working together to create the stuff that we all want. And as long as somebody's doing their part to help create the stuff that we all need and want, like food, and your toys, and your homes, and all of your good stuff that you like, your clothing, as long as we're all working together for that, there's no reason we can't create our own monetary system, and that we couldn't pay everybody the exact same amount of money, but make sure it's a really generous amount, so that everybody can live comfortably. You know how much division that would take out of society? You know, division, divide and conquer. You know, one of the strategies they've been using for years. But Brian's typical. He's what I've seen so many of. He's all about himself. Even in this video here, he absolutely said it again about these cops. Power absolutely corrupts. He's right about that, but he left out two things that nobody wants to acknowledge: ego and greed. That's right, greed for money. See, ego, greed, and power, the three things that 100% absolutely corrupt. And Brian's corrupted by two of them. That's the reason he only tells you about one of them. You don't ever even say greed and power absolutely corrupt. No, he don't say that. He leaves that greed word out, because that's controlling Brian. Greed and ego. All you gotta do is pay attention to Brian. He's an egomaniac. He's greedy as hell. And he wants to make his living off the back of real truth. He wants to make his living by never wanting this problem in our society, our world, to go away. Because if it was to go away, he couldn't have his easy life, right, Brian? Isn't that what it really comes down to, Brian? You're damn right it is. The one thing I've never done in all the years I've been up here speaking out is asked anybody for money. And I never will. Ever. I don't give a shit if I'm flat broke. I'll still be fighting from my heart. See, that's what happens when you have real care. You can do it from your heart. But when you're missing real care, and your care is all about yourself, well, then it's easy to be like Brian. Your ego inflates up, your head swells up, your ego goes off, and you worry about the very thing that's keeping you enslaved. The money from the very people who are doing this to us. That's how they got what they got, because so many people like Brian sold out worldwide. Then you're all going to whine and cry when millions of people are dying all over the place and there's blood everywhere. You'll be bitching about that. When it comes to your door, Brian, you ain't going to like it. Oh, you're going to be all ready to fight, ain't you? Now, good luck on that one when you get an army of people come to your door with guns. Then you're going to think somebody should be here to stop it. But why would anybody be there to stop it? Because they're all like you. They all had to have the tool. Their heads were all swollen up with ego. They couldn't think clearly. Makes me sad, makes me sick. I guess that's about all I got to say towards Brian over here. I just want you to meet the new Alex Jones. Okay, this egomaniac right here called Brian of High Impact Flicks, High Impact Vlogs. You know, doing his live streams, telling you more symptoms. Make it easy for people to go look and see what's going on around them and not understand where it's coming from. You won't ever hear him talk about what can we do to stop this, guys. How can we get together offline, guys? Where can we meet up at, guys? Yeah. So that we can make plans, so that we can work out what we're going to be able to do to put a stop to what's going on. And the starting place is the tool, the money. Because it's the very thing that has controlled people and allowed them to get what they're getting. When you walk away from that monetary system and you create your own, and you work diligently to use that to train with and continue to work, and if they tell you to shut down your company, you don't listen to them. Hell no, if you have to have an army of people to protect it, you just keep right on going forward, just like they did. Yeah, there's going to be some bloodshed, but there ain't no way out of it now. Because the only way out of bloodshed is for worldwide, from military, cops, and everybody to stand down. If everybody in this world just stood down and didn't listen to a damn thing that any of the elites said, they would have no power at all.
Oh, Bill, I don't.
Anyhow, I'm going to end this. With that being said, guys, I'm out of here.